orange jerseys of Broadway here. We also have a couple of maquettes, which are these scale models that are utilized in the pre-production of the show. They allow the designers to get on the same page. So the lighting designer, lighting, costume, set designer, and the director can all get on the same page. They can make a lot of decisions in small scale, which is a lot less expensive than having to make huge sweeping decisions after they've already built everything in full scale. So it allows them to make those critical decisions early on and all be on the same page. We also have some examples of Tony Award-winning costume design. We have Beast's boot here, which you can tell because of the gnarly toes that are poking out of the front, of course. Some people guess this is Gaston, and of course the response to that is that Gaston would never allow his toes to go this far without a pedicure. So this boot is a great example of things in theater not always being what they appear. This is intended to look like a nice heavy leather riding boot, and is that not what it looks like? It looks like that, yes? That's the intention. But if we pull away this jagged leather edge here, we'll hear the familiar sound of Velcro, and underneath that leather spat is actually a Reebok.
Oh my God.
So we have a high top tennis shoe.
I need a shoe right there.
In here. So the Beast is walking around, clomping around 8 shows a week in full arch supported comfort. And you didn't even know it. That's thanks to the costume designer creating this. This will still be available, so I don't want to mess up anybody's photographs, but this will certainly be available for later on. Next we have Madame Le Grand Bouche, or Madame Big Mouth, who's the opera diva who gets turned into the wardrobe. And her costume is here, and this is what the costume looks like under our gorgeous fluorescent lights. All of this is hand-beaded and hand-corded to look like this. If we adjust slightly with the performer inside and the headdress on for the character, under the stage lights, she looks a little bit more like this.
Oh my God.
You can really see the benefit that stage lighting can have, not only for a performer, but also for the costuming. And also the set as well. The set's really popped with the right theatrical lighting. So there's this one moment in the show where this character rips open her chest and exposes her drawers. And in Disney, of course, we mean that literally. So we'll do that like so, 1, 2, 3, rips open her chest, exposes her drawers. This drawer is the only one that actually operates. It's a false drawer. There's no bottom in it, so it's not cutting her in half, of course. And there's this silk pouch that is sewn in here that contains some jewelry that she's able to find every performance to throw them around. She has a little bit of a fit at one point and starts opening a drawer and throwing things out, and that's where she's able to find it every night. You saw how high the costume comes up in her chin. She wouldn't really be able to look and find it, so she's able to find it with her hands in that silk pouch. Next we have Mary Poppins. Now the maquettes should look familiar because it was a theater we were just in. And this maquette shows you the primary set of the show, which was the Banks home. The first 2 floors of the Banks home here was one large set piece. It was able to go all the way upstage and be covered over by a curtain, and you wouldn't even know it was there for numbers like Let's Go Fly a Kite and Jolly Holiday. And then when it was needed, those first 2 floors would truck all the way downstage toward the audience in front of their eyes, while the rooftop set, which also doubled as the nursery, would fly in from 8 floors above the stage, and it would all meet like in one big puzzle piece. It looked like a life-size dollhouse. It's a pretty incredible sight just to see this set come together. It's probably the reason why we won the Tony Award for Best Set Design that year, the year that Mary Poppins came out. It's also very interesting to see how these actual furniture pieces that were utilized in the show, how close they were able to get to the original design of the maquette. And so the people who found these pieces of furniture or built them, they actually got pretty close to the original design. It's kind of cool to compare the life size to the maquette size. Next we have Aida, which is based in the Giuseppe Verdi opera of the same name. This one has a rock score by Elton John and lyrics by Tim Rice. We have a number of the headdresses they were utilized in the show. The more dramatic headdresses were utilized in the number My Strongest Suit, in which the character Banderas sings about how fashion and clothing is the most important thing to her. It defines who and what she is, and she has this fashion show in her mind that, of course, in theater, we put on the stage. And so there are a number of ensemble members that parade down the runway in these, not only these headdresses, but also very elaborate costumes. All these are look fairly Egyptian as we're going around until we get to this kind of abstract cube here. This doesn't make as much sense with all the other ones, right? This doesn't scream Egypt to you. However, if you look at the full costume, it may make a little more sense in context. So with the architecture of this costume, you can kind of get a sense of why this may have fit better with everything else. This is actually a marketing headdress among the tour guides here. This is something that I think Lady Gaga may have stole this from us years before she had that persona. Next we have Tarzan. Did anybody know that Tarzan was a musical for Disney on Broadway? Fantastic. That's more than people who saw the show. Disney has about a 24% success rate on Broadway. I'm sorry, that's 24% success rate is what most musicals have on Broadway. Disney has about 75% success rate on Broadway, so we can talk about the one show that didn't do so hot. One of the reasons for that is it did not have the benefit of out-of-town tryouts. Pretty much any Broadway show you see today has had a chance to work out its production kinks and story issues in places like Toronto, St. Louis, Seattle, Houston, before they bring to Broadway. Not only does that allow them to work out those issues off-site, it's a lot less expensive to produce in other cities. The critics are also a lot less harsh than they are in New York City. So that they know when they come to New York City, they spend all that money, and they get in front of all these critics, then they are ready to go. And the reason why they probably didn't do this for Tarzan is because there was a lot of rigging work that was necessary to install for the people who played the apes. And the people who did play the apes trained with months with Ringling Brothers to make sure that they were utilizing the aircraft cabling that kept them aloft safely. One other layer of safety was installed behind these, in the maquette, these strings represent the actual vines that are utilized in the show. They go around 3/4 of the stage. You can see the actual size vines here, a little bit bigger. And behind those vines, they installed an inflatable wall. This allowed the people playing the apes, if they were swinging a little too hard, instead of swinging through those vines with a brick wall or around the theater, they slammed into something that's one bouncy castle. It's a lot more comfortable and safe for the performers. Next, we have Little Mermaid. We have Ariel's under the sea costume right here. We have a bathtub in which she's singing Beyond my Wildest Dreams in the second act of Prince Eric's castle. We have King Triton's throne over here, a number of headdresses are utilized, and also this whole rack of costumes. But I wanted to draw your attention to this cart. This is Chef Louis' cart. If you all remember the movie, Chef Louis sings the number Le Poisson when he's trying to catch Sebastian, who he believes belongs in his meal, even though Sebastian's just trying to keep an eye on Ariel. This cart is another example of things in theater not always being what they appear. If everybody looks at the front of the cart, it appears as if it's empty. Is that correct? Does everybody kind of see the bottom of this cart here? That's very much done intentionally to believe that it is empty. This is a 3-person operation. You have the person who's playing Sebastian, the life-size person. He's in puppet form here, so this trick can work. He's probably needed off stage to change costumes or something. So he's off stage, ready to sing into his offstage microphone. We have the person playing Chef Louis who's pushing the cart on, parallel with the audience, right like this, so that you see the front of the cart. And if you would imagine, there's a big copper dome over Sebastian here, so you don't really know that he's here yet. So when you push the cart on parallel with the audience, we can lift up this dome, so right at the right moment, Sebastian can sing. Sing just on cue. And does anybody have any thoughts on how this little trick is done? Any thoughts? Any hypotheses? Have a slinky as an option? We do not have a slinky. A lot more sophisticated than that. We'll not in just a moment. Any other guesses? Yeah.
It looks like there's a false back, maybe?
Yeah.
A little bit more depth.
Yeah, you're right there. So have you ever heard the term smoke and mirrors? This is the mirrors aspect of that phrase. So if you come down with me just a little bit, should be able to catch a glimpse of my fingers as I go toward the critical point here. There's a mirror on a 45-degree angle. It gives the cart the illusion that's empty, which allows for space for a performer to ride in the back. It's running. Who actually articulated the puppet. The puppet's about as sophisticated as you can get. There's a hole cut in the cart, and there's a stick through Sebastian's head. So, nice and simple, gets the job done. There you go. We're gonna finish up at Lion King, and then we're gonna have some chance to try some things on and have some stuff. So, Lion King on Broadway. I already talked to you about about how Lion King is doing. Let's talk about the design of the show. I really went down on the block here. So these are the lioness masks that are utilized in the show, and for all of you who have seen it, and those of you who have not, I highly suggest seeing it. But for everyone who sees these masks here, these are actually worn on top of the head instead of in front of the face. Julie Taymor is the director of this show. She was actually the first woman to win a Tony Award for Best Director of a Musical. And she had her hand in pretty much every aspect of this production. She designed these masks, she designed the costumes, she helped design the sets, she wrote some of the lyrics for the show. She had her hand in everything. And she designed these masks very specifically, so they're worn on top of the head like this. She calls this the double event. This allows you to have the static, essential expression of the animal character at all times, and the more dynamic expression of the human actor playing the role seen at all times at the same time. So that's what she calls the double event. It also has the extra added bonus of being a lot less intimidating for the younger set than seeing this for 2.5 hours every day. So that's a little bit less intimidating than having it on top of the head. You always see the human character with all of the animal characters. These masks were designed to look like they were made out of what material? Wood. Exactly. Would be a little bit too heavy to wear on the head, especially for dancers and other performers. It just would be too heavy even after a few minutes. So she went looking for a material called carbon graphite, which that's what she found. This material called carbon graphite is utilized in speedboats, racing cars, pool cues, and a lot of sporting equipment. Has a very high strength to weight ratio. And he designed these masks out of clay and cast them in this carbon graphite to evoke the central theme of Lion King, which is the opening and closing number of the show. Does anybody remember what that is? Exactly. As you look at these masks, you designed this to work in your subconscious. If you look at this mask, do you see circles and balance and symmetry? That is very much done on purpose. I'm bringing this into your conscious minds. You'll know when you go back to see Lion King about this. In stark contrast, think about the elephant graveyard and the design of the hyenas and Scar, who we have in person here. Very angular, jagged, asymmetrical. He breaks the circle of life and doesn't fit within that circle, and that was very much done on purpose. So we're going to go around the room. These masks cost between $5,000 and $7,000 to recreate. So we just want to make you aware of that. We want you to hold these with 2 hands at all times, if you would, please. They're also very light, and you're welcome to try them on your head like this, but if you do wear them like they do in the show, just hold them with 2 hands while you're taking the photograph. We just don't want them to drop because they are very strong, but they can crack. We want them to be nice for everybody else who comes to this room. So you can try these masks on. We have this Koopy hat here you're welcome to try on as well. I'm going to put this in the drum. Looks good on everybody. We have Rafiki's hair here you can try on. The zebra hats on the mannequin you're welcome to try on. We have the Newsies chairs over there from Pulitzer's office. You're welcome to sit in those and take a great post photograph there. You can try on Beast Boot if you'd like. You can sit at the furniture over at Mary Poppins. Carla's over there to assist you getting in and out of costumes. You can try on any of the headpieces over at Aida. If you'd like to get in Ariel's bathtub, Brian is over there to assist you getting in and out.